So, good morning, it's Saturday. So, one of the biggest blunders that I have seen my students struggling is when I give them science formulas and they cannot, for example, in the problem that tells them to calculate one of the variables or or um, one of the variables that are in a different side than the actual variable that this formula relates to. If I put them a problem that is very simple of using this, they don't struggle too much. But if I tell them, for example, now calculate me the change in temperature, the final temperature, given a certain amount of energy, they struggle. And from my perspective, it's like they can, I think some of the students that are in science, and because they've been gotten to use the cell phone slightly a lot, they don't make the connection with algebra and science. And a lot of the students, when I was teaching algebra, it's like how this is going to help me out. And in all honesty, algebra is a way of like doing math faster in a way that is more efficient. For example, if you want to find how much money you can earn from selling um, candy at $1.25, you can do a quick equation in algebra, set up your own equation. So I want to calculate how much money I can earning. So it's called E is equal $1.50 times the number of candy bars that I saw, which I can call X. And in algebra, we use the letter X to represent many things. It's a quantity, and it's a quantity that will satisfy this equation. Um, so let me get the um, let me get the eraser. So the concepts that you use for algebra, specifically to solve problems like this, it can help you when you have to find quantities using formulas, because it's the same application of this. And when I was younger, I didn't struggle making the connection from this to this. X is just a quantity that I want to find. But does it have to be X? No, it doesn't have to be X. We can call them any letter. So when I realize that, that means that if I look in here, so now if I have the quantities in here, I can still find the other quantity. And I just have to use one equation. I just have to memorize this formula instead of memorizing multiple formulas, or a triangle. As long as I remember this, I can solve the problem. Some people, of course, the triangle is very helpful. They have the density triangle where you have something like this. So you have a triangle and you have density, mass, volume. So you have a little triangle like this. You have a triangle, and what you do is like, depending on what you want. If I want to find the density, so I divide mass by volume. If I want to find the volume, I divide mass by density. And if I want to find the mass, I just cover it up and I just have to multiply density by volume. Pretty much it's a short way of doing algebra with a triangle for people that struggle. But if you understand how to do algebra and solve problems like this, then it's relatively easy to solve problems like this for a different quantity, a different unknown. So in here we know that when we solve problems like this, we have to, it's not to move this one to the other side, but it's like we have to subtract -4 to both sides of the equation. So we do that. We get the 4 minus 4, that's 0. 10 minus 4, that's equal 6. And then I'm left with x divided by 2. And then I have to multiply by 2 on both sides. So if I do that, multiply by 2. So x by 2 divided by 2, that's equal 2 divided by 2, which is equal 6 times 2. So this will be equal to, x will be equal to 12. So the same analysis that I do for an equation of solving multiple steps, I can apply to solving or rearranging a formula such as any of these formulas here. For example, and I'm going to erase this in here. So in this case, so we'll start with, let's do, for example, the heat equation. So this is the heat equation. You have Q, this time is how much heat, mass, times the specific heat of the substance, times the change in temperature. So say I want to find the change in temperature, and I'm given the quantities of heat, the mass, and the specific heat, which is a property of the material in science. So if I'm interested in finding delta t, so find delta t. So using the same concept, so I know this multiplication, so you have to divide by m and c on both sides, and I can find the equation, so the change in delta t. So to do this, I can just rearrange it. So I have this m times c times delta t. So I know that in this case I have to multiply both sides by 1 over mc. So if I do that, I get q divided by mc, which is equal to m times c times delta t divided by mc. Mass will cancel, c will cancel because these are the same, and I'm left with delta t is equal to q divided by m times c. So if I understand what this means, this will be the energy, this will be the mass, it will be the specific heat of the material, and this will give me the change in temperature. So again, this is similar to algebra. What they call in algebra, this is also called literal equations. Literal equations. But what I'm doing is like I'm rearranging this using concepts from algebra, and this is valid to do for formulas in science. So if you know how to solve equations in algebra, you can apply that, extrapolate that to isolate variables in science formulas, because it's the same concept, you know. And a lot of students, they struggle because they don't see the connection of algebra going into science formulas. And again, it's the same procedure. You just have to pretend that these are numbers, and you just isolate this, and then you can substitute into this, you know. So you can derive multiple equations. So if I want to find c, so I know I will have to divide by mass and the change in temperature. So it will be q divided by the mass and temperature. So I find the specific heat. If I want to find the mass, given the other quantities, then I will have to divide by the heat capacity. Sorry, it's the heat capacity, not the heat capacity of the material, and the temperature. And my formula will be q divided by the heat capacity and the change in temperature will be equal to the mass. So I can derive different equations, different formulas to calculate what I need to find out. And again, this is just to show a little bit of how the connection, knowing how to do Algebra 1, can help you in sciences. So if you're struggling, I suggest you review and re-study how to solve multi-step variable problems in algebra, because it will help you out when you go to science. And if you can do that and you can make the connection, it will totally help you out. So this is the connection for Algebra 1 into science formulas. And again, application is the same. And like I said, for me, it was easy to make that connection. I never struggled with this in school. To me, it was like, oh, so now I have two quantities that are giving me, and I want to find the one that is missing. Oh, that's algebra, you know, like, poof, easy. Never struggled when I was in school. Even engineering. So, but I know that a lot of students, and a lot of people struggle with this. But what you have to realize, like algebra, they give you the tools, and that can be transposed to science formula. It's the same process, the same procedure of rearranging the quantities to find another quantity. So this is a basic formula. It relates the density to mass and volume, but it can also be rearranged to find other things that you need to find. So if I want to find the volume and I know the density of an object and I know the mass, I can find the volume by rearranging this. So again, in this one it has the option that you can use a density triangle, and the density triangle also helps too. In any case, any questions, please feel free to ask, but I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you like it, please like and share, and if you want me to cover something else, please let me know. Hopefully this will be useful to you or to somebody else that you know that might be struggling. Bye.